It's funny, when people say everything can change overnight, they usually mean it as some kind of pep talk. But for me, overnight meant standing in the biting cold, staring at a brand new padlock on my own damn gate, while my kids looked at me from the school bus like they were the ones who got grounded. Not just the cold that hit me. Nah, it was the smack-in-the-face realization that my whole life could be unraveled by a woman in a Burberry coat who probably thought hard labor was picking out a throw pillow. December 1st. Granite Falls wind howling like it wanted blood, and I'm stuck on one side of the fence, my boys Leo and Sam on the other. Their faces pressed to that bus window, all wide-eyed and scared. Man, nothing prepares you for that. You know how they say, it'll build character? That's what Victoria Sterling, queen of the HOA, chirped at me right after checking her nails. She had that kind of smile you see on people who've never gotten dirty, the kind that says, I'd step on you if my heels wouldn't get stuck. She actually told me I should have read the fine print about seasonal pavement preservation. Like I was some idiot who couldn't read, let alone run a business. The kicker? That stupid gate, installed without a single vote or warning, wasn't just a gate. It was 40 grand in Christmas tree sales, gone before we'd even started. It was bankruptcy, delivered with a flourish and a memo. But none of that compared to watching my boys look at me like, Dad, why can't you fix this? That's when I snapped. Not with shouting, just this ice-cold clarity like, okay, game on. And here's the thing Victoria didn't get. What none of those HOA folks sipping their pumpkin spice lattes in Summit Ridge Estates got. They were all so busy protecting their perfect community, their manicured roads, they had no idea the mountain under their feet was basically Swiss cheese, hollowed out by ironwood mining core back in the 50s. Victoria's shiny new padlock, sitting right over a hidden tunnel, on land she had no legal right to block. So, let me back up. Maybe you're thinking, how'd you end up here? Name's Jack Miller. 3 years back, I thought I'd done the right thing. Took the payout from the mine collapse that killed my dad, hardest day of my life, and bought 300 acres up here, thinking I was buying peace, safety, a real shot at something better for my family. My wife, Elena, she runs the books, makes the place look like a postcard, while the boys and I handle the heavy stuff. Fraser firs as far as you can see, a promise of a simple, honest life. The guy who sold me the land, old-timer named Frank, swore up and down, the HOA maintains the road, but you've got a grandfathered agricultural easement. Sounded solid. And it was, until Victoria Sterling rolled in, white Range Rover and all, acting like she owned the mountain. She moved in, called a meeting, and somehow, surprise, she's president of the HOA before her moving boxes are even unpacked. You ever meet someone who treats you less like a neighbor, more like the help? That's Victoria. At first, it was just comments about our work trucks ruining the view, but she didn't stop there. No, right before Thanksgiving, new signs pop up, commercial vehicles banned all winter. Right as I'm about to sell the year's harvest. Elena saw the signs and did the math. Hundreds of pre-orders we'd have to refund, money we'd never see again. The kitchen felt like a wake that night, her lavender tea scent fighting with the pine pitch on my hands, and neither of us saying what we were really thinking. We're about to lose everything because one woman hates the look of my pickup. I'll be honest, fear's not new for me. Losing my dad, the mine had all left a scar. But that night, sitting in the dark, I felt something else. My hand drifted into my pocket, my dad's old brass compass, the only thing I managed to grab before they pulled his body out. I thought, if the road's blocked, you find another way. Sometimes you go underground. I told Elena, half joking, half desperate, I'm going back into mines. Her face went pale. She knew what that meant. I hadn't set foot underground since the collapse, but desperate men do desperate things. So, next HOA meeting, I show up. Victoria spent 30 grand of the community's money making the clubhouse look like a ski lodge. She's giving a slideshow, blaming every crack in the road on my trucks, ignoring the fact that heavy equipment for her own home remodels had chewed up more asphalt than I ever could. When I try to say my piece, she cuts me down in front of everyone, hinting I'm unstable after my dad's death. That one stung. Watching folks I'd shared beers with looking at me like I'm about to snap. And then she announces a special assessment that'll bleed us dry, right as she bans us from the road. On the drive home, snow swirling the headlights, I realized you can't out-lawyer a narcissist. So I went down to the basement, pulled out those old geological maps from 1954. In Colorado, mineral rights are a wild animal. The person who owns the ground isn't always the person who owns what's under it. Turns out, Ironwood's claim ran right under the whole development, and it was never given up, which means by federal law, the rights holder can access the minerals. HOA covenants be damned. I spent the next morning hiking the ridge with a metal detector. Found the old survey stakes buried under scrub oak, and behind them, the mouth of an abandoned shaft, shaft 7. Cold, damp, smelled like secrets. I stepped inside, flashlight shaking in my hand, and, yeah, I'll admit it, I was scared. But that tunnel was wide enough to drive a truck through. It was like finding a secret highway, and suddenly, I had a way around Victoria's little barricade. But the universe has a sense of humor. Just as I'm cooking up my underground plan, a sedan with government plates pulls into the driveway. Lady steps out, Child Protective Services. Turns out someone, guess who, filed reports saying I was forcing my boys to work in unsafe mines. Elena looked ready to collapse. The caseworker took photos, asked the boys if they felt safe with Dad. That hurt more than anything. We had to send Leo and Sam to Elena's sister's place in Denver, just until the investigation's over. Watching them pack their bags, asking why they couldn't stay home, yeah, something broke in me right then. The house was too quiet after that. I started working the tunnel for real. Industrial fans, new timbers, clearing out decades of debris. I was down there so much, the mountains started to feel like home. Then, as I worked toward the coordinates under the community center, I stumbled into a hallway that wasn't on any map. Brand new concrete, a steel door with a biohazard sign. Unlocked. Inside, stacks of 55-gallon drums, dozens of them, leaking sludge that stank of metal and rot. Some had labels: asbestos, lead, solvents. Real nightmare stuff. And here's the kicker. This wasn't old history. There were fresh tire tracks in the dust, meaning someone was still dumping. Someone was using the mine as their personal landfill. I set up trail cams, same kind I use for elk hidden in the shadows. Sat down there in the dark, listening to the hum of the fans and the mountain breathing. Sometimes you get so tired, you don't even notice the fear anymore. Up on the surface, Victoria wasn't slowing down. She hired security to patrol Highland Pass, stopped every delivery, harassed Elena, finally slapped me with a restraining order saying I was stalking residents. I got served by a sheriff's deputy I'd known since high school, Briggs. He just shook his head, sorry as hell, but the law's the law. Now, if our house caught fire, the fire trucks couldn't cross the HOA line to save us. County called our property uninhabitable. Watching Elena hike groceries up the hill, her breath fogging in the thin air, I realized this wasn't about rules or roads. Victoria was trying to break us. So I threw myself deeper into the tunnels, reinforcing a bypass from our barn to the chamber, making sure every inch was legal under the old mining laws. If anyone asked, I was extracting minerals, which gave me more rights than any HOA. 3 days later, my phone buzzes. A trail cam caught something. 3 heavy-duty trucks, logo for Sterling Development Group, rolling in through a hidden entrance on Victoria's estate. Who's in the hard hat? Barking orders? Victoria herself, watching her offload barrels of chemical sludge. I felt sick and, I'll admit, a little triumphant. She'd spent all this time painting me as the villain while she was turning the mountain into a toxic dump. I started documenting everything, serial numbers, chemical readings, even the structural damage her people had caused. Dug up enough paperwork to make Watergate look like a prank. Found an old office down there, files showing she'd bribed the county geologist to fake soil reports. The whole development, all those fancy houses, built on a landslide zone. Victoria knew it. She'd been embezzling road funds, covering it up, selling ticking time bombs to unsuspecting families. That's when I called in some backup, EPA agent named Thorne and a lawyer, Sarah Jenkins. Both no nonsense, both furious at what they saw. Turns out, we weren't looking at just fines. This was RICO territory, organized crime, environmental terrorism, the whole 9 yards. We made a plan for the next HOA meeting, December 15th, where Victoria was planning her final solution for us. Weeks of work went into prepping the grand finale. I rigged a hydraulic lift under the community center, right below the podium, old mining elevator fixed up with new parts. I was in the tunnel for the final checks when my phone started going off, motion sensors everywhere. Victoria, never one for subtlety, had sent in a team with crates of explosives. I watched on the monitors as her security guys planted charges at the wrong spots. She thought she could bury me and the evidence for good. When the blast came, it shook the whole valley. But because I'd reinforced the tunnel in all the right places, all she managed to do was blow a hole straight up. Her Range Rover disappeared in a sinkhole, barrels of sludge exposed to the open air, and Victoria left standing there, covered in dust, holding a detonator as the cops arrived. I'll never forget the look on her face. Poetry, honestly. She still wasn't done, though. Within 48 hours, she's out on bail, lawyers spinning stories about me being some eco-terrorist. They gave me 4 hours to leave my own house, thinking they'd keep me away from the meeting. Thing is, she had no idea I'd already handed everything over to the feds. Her own guy was wired up for weeks. So when Victoria swaggered into the community center, expecting to play the victim, I was already below the floor, waiting. The place was packed. Neighbors, news crews, agents in plain clothes, the whole circus. Mr. Henderson, acting president, tried to keep order, but Victoria couldn't help herself, stood up, making speeches about protecting the community from the unstable hillbilly. Right in the middle of her big finish, I hit the button. A deep rumble ran through the floor. People stopped talking, looked around. The platform started to rise, slow, creaking, dramatic as hell. I came up out of the ground, holding my dad's minor lantern, Leo and Sam right behind me. Pushed the evidence carts out, laid everything on the table, maps, files, photos, the works. Phones flashed, people gasped, Victoria went white as a sheet. I put the lantern on the podium, looked right at her. You said I was digging my own grave, Victoria. Turns out, I was just digging up your dirt. Projected the soil reports, showed the money trail, the toxic waste leaking into everyone's water. The crowd flipped, from confused to furious. You could feel it, this wave of realization, as people understood they'd been poisoned, lied to, robbed, all for profit. Agent Thorne started reading off charges: Clean Water Act, racketeering, domestic terrorism. Victoria sputtered, tried to talk her way out, but by then, nobody cared. The sheriff put her in cuffs for the bombing and the bribery. She looked at me, eyes full of hate, and hissed, "It's not over." I just said, "Some holes are too deep to climb out of." It was over for her. Not just the road, but all the years of feeling small, feeling like people with power could just roll right over you. Victoria got 22 years in federal prison. Her assets went to clean up the mess, the HOA dissolved, replaced by something that actually worked. My farm got a settlement, enough to keep us going for good. And the tunnel, once a place of fear, turned into a research site for the Colorado School of Mines. Leo and Sam came home for good. That Christmas, we sold out of every tree. Neighbors, even the ones who used to glare at our trucks, showed up to support us. Sometimes, the mountain feels different now, lighter, like justice can really shift the ground under your feet. Sitting here, watching the sunset over Evergreen Legacy Farm, I wonder, how many other places are built on secrets? How many folks in power get away with burying the truth because no one dares to dig? Where's the line between doing what's legal and doing what's right? If the system is stacked against you, is it wrong to dig your way out, no matter how messy it gets? I'd love to hear what you think. Have you ever gone up against someone who thought the rules didn't apply to them? Do you think I went too far? Or not far enough? Share your story. I bet I'm not the only one who's had to get their hands dirty to keep their conscience clean.